Welcome to this video for the final round of the Norway 2013 Super Tournament, the Supreme Masters. Now it's the 9th round and it looks like Sergei Karjakin is going to win this tournament. He is still leading despite losing a second time in round 8, but Carlsen also lost against Wang Hao. So Karjakin still in the lead, but he still needs probably at least a draw in the final round to secure first place. So look, let's have a look what happened. At first, let's look at Rajabov against Svidler. Both players are not fighting for the tournament victory anymore. In fact, Rajabov has a rotten tournament. He's in fairly bad form, and to me it seems that he decided beforehand this game that he really wants to wrap this up and make a draw. And okay, he's playing a very sharp line on paper, this pawn sack line, but in fact while being maybe sharp from an, let's say, amateur or the normal player level or view, it's a better way to describe it. It's sharp for an amateur, but for a professional it seems that here bishop g4 is the only move that is a reliable equalizer for black. Or let's say, I'm not sure if it is a complete equalizer, but it seems like the most reliable move. And here white can play bishop rook takes b7, which already was tested in Aronian against John Ludwig Hammer. In this game Hammer played this move, and he was in slight trouble after d5. And the best way to answer rook b7 seems to be exactly what Svidler is playing, and this was also recommended in this book about the Grunfeld by Boris Avrukh, the now standard and most recent work on this opening. He recommended to grab the pawn, and it continues like this. Here, in fact, he recommends rook d8 in this book, but knight c6 was played, and we see that this is a very, very forcing way to play. White just takes on e7, rook e8, and bishop back, and after bishop to b6, white can go for this attack, and black must, oops, I keep doing that, black must use his good knight on d4 to get counterplay. And we see that following those moves, basically everything is exchanged. And also note the opposite colored bishops. White gave away this pawn, but it doesn't really matter. He's quick on b3, and black now played f5. It really doesn't matter. He can also go rook to e7, and this is also pretty dead. Just opposite colored bishops and dead equal. Yeah, in fact he played f5, but it's not much of a difference, giving up this pawn, and draw agreed. I think Rajabov was simply looking for a line where he can simplify lots of pieces exchanged and make a draw. He just wanted this tournament to end, and such a on paper sharp line that fizzles out is quite a good way to do that. So a draw in this game. Then the next game I'm going to show is Aronian against Carlsen. Aronian against Carlsen. Yeah, Aronian cannot win it anymore, and Carlsen, yeah, he would need a win. But it seems with black it's a difficult task against Levon. He played the Queen's Gambit, declined, very solid choice. Now knight b to d7. This isn't so popular, but it's a very solid way to go. Here you can also play c6, transposing to the Cambridge Springs. This in fact Carlsen played against Gelfand in the candidates. Here he played the very traditional move bishop e7, which leads to the very old-fashioned Queen's Gambit declined with knight b d7. and rook c1. Here played a6. This is really an ancient line. It's played in the back in the 20s in games of let's say Rubinstein, Capablanca, and so on. It was a fairly popular line like 100 years ago or 80, 90 years ago. But the fun thing is it is still perfectly alright for black. In fact, I studied this a while back, trying to dig out some old forgotten lines, and this a6 move is definitely playable. The idea is to take on c4 and then play b5. And I think if white wants to play for something here, he probably needs to exchange. This is one possibility, leading to this typical Carlsen structure, but with an early rook c1 and a6 inserted. Or you need to go c5, which is the sharpest move. This can lead to very exciting play. Something like this is one possible line. a6 is a move that is very interesting to vary your play. Aronian played queen c2, which is probably not very testing. The reason is that black now can realize his main idea. Takes and c5, now b5, and this in fact I think that this bishop e2 already shows that white is not fighting for much. If you want to do something, you probably play a4 to prevent b5, but one issue is that if you look at this, maybe you can play h6 first. I'm not sure if this is more precise. The queen and rook are not exactly great in an isolated queen's pawn position, and black has quite a normal setup. It's probably about equal, but Aronian just went back and after b5 played this maneuver, and here I don't think that black has any sort of problem. He has got this usually problematic bishop now already developed on a good diagonal, and I think that even white needs to be careful, and Aronian immediately wraps the game up. I think it's a very good practical decision. You need to make sure nothing bad is happening. After this, it's very simplified. Yeah, and now black is threatening all kinds of things here, like this, or rook to c2. So he chose the most most simplifying option, and after a couple more moves, here a draw was agreed. I think 1 or 2 repetitions. Okay, and now a draw. Yeah, a bit of a disappointing game. Carlsen played a solid opening, but Aronian didn't want to fight. Obviously, you can do that. I mean, c5, for example, as shown, is much sharper. So I'm not sure how much you can blame Carlsen for that lifeless draw. On the other hand, it's possible that he didn't really want to try too hard, risk too much. I mean, he lost a very disappointing game yesterday against Wang Hao, and maybe didn't feel like risking much more and lose again. I don't know. It's also really a matter of both players. The moves like queen c2 are simply not designed to play for any sort of advantage. So a bit of a dull draw here. Okay, next game. Let's look at Wang Hao against Anand. This is actually relatively easy to commentate on. Let's see what happens. So we have a symmetrical English where Wang Hao now plays the somewhat uncommon move d4. The reason is that after this, black immediately attacks the knight, and white needs to do something with this. It needs to move the knight again. The normal reaction would be knight c2, but this is now unfortunately met with taking. And then, okay, it's a matter of move order. I think queen a5 is the most common move. directly attacking the pawn. And this actually has an excellent reputation for black. It's usually believed that black even is better in this position. Maybe equal, but some guys already believe it's an edge for black. Okay, but Wang Hao now played e3. I think he just wanted to avoid this. Maybe he forgot about this possibility and now thought, okay, better not have my pawn structure damaged so early. Of course, e3 leads to a position where there's simply not much happening. In fact, I'm a bit surprised. If Anand wanted to do something in this game, I'm a bit surprised that he's playing for that he plays d5 here. It's certainly not bad. I mean, just from a purely, just from a mathematical kind of standpoint, you can play that. But if you want to try a bit, then I would rather expect something like this, keeping more pieces on the board. This is like a Maroxy where there's e3 instead of e4, so black should have a relatively easy game. This is how I played this number of times, and it's simply delaying the fight and keeping more pieces on. d5 is not bad as mentioned, but it leads to, just have a look, to some simplification where it's not so clear if black has got such a great position. This pawn is weak and this square is weak. You have some dynamic things going for you, this bishop in particular, but it's a matter of taste. I wouldn't like to have this as black if you have this solid alternative. It's a matter of taste, I guess. Black has got good active diagonals. Yeah, but now Wang Hao plays a very interesting approach. He played g4, attacking the bishop, and it doesn't have much choice. Back to e6, and now he played e4. A very, very concrete play, but it's interesting. This simply kicks the knight, and after that plans to use the c5 square. He played knight to b4, knight c5. Yeah, and in this position, it's already probably the decisive position in this game. Here, quite shockingly, Anand took on a2 after about 8 minutes. Think he could have played some other moves. I don't know, queen d6 or a queen move to support this bishop. The simple problem after bishop a2 is that queen a4 threatens rook a2 and queen b4. It's a simple double attack, and I'm not quite sure where, but Anand must have miscalculated terribly. He now played queen d4, the only move that not instantly gives away material. You can play something like this, but this kind of position is basically busted. I mean, just bishop here, protect this, and then you will at a later stage probably win those pawns. It's just a disaster. Played queen d4. Yeah, and here white has the strong move queen a5. Maybe he underestimated that one. It's hard to tell. Bishop a2 is really a weird move for a top player. You're just in a terrible bind now. What are you playing? If he removes the bishop, for example, there's simply rook d1, and where do you go? This knight is just gone. Yeah, he tried a rook to d8. The computer gives this cool move. The idea is after rook d1 to grab on h2. This is really typically crazy computer stuff. Of course, this is the idea. Check. But white can just move the king, and then bishop c7. This was the computer idea. After rook d4 though, bishop a5, rook b4, bishop b4, and then the point knight a6 2 bishops are hanging, and after something like this, white has a technically winning endgame. This is in fact very easy. It looks maybe a bit complicated yet, but it's very easy. White just goes b3, bishop c4. This secures the whole queen side. Then you play bishop e3 and the knight back, and at the end you will win all those pawns. Black cannot defend this. You just attack it with all your pieces, and black has no play. It's a very easy win. And I played rook d8, and here Wang Hao played king g2. This is winning, but he could also have played just rook d1, and this is even more forceful. What is black doing now? The queen is just attacked. Doesn't have a square where it keeps b4 on the board.
Check.
You need to do this basically.
Check.
My suspicion is that he saw that and maybe didn't see queen a4. Queen a4 in fact wins now. It's using this pin, and this probably would have led to a quick resignation. But okay, king g2 also wins. It's just a preparation move, which allows this move without checks like queen d1, bishop d1, rook d1 check. And this the thing is, black is so amazingly tied up that he has absolutely no way to prevent rook d1. He simply has no move. Played bishop c4 and now rook d1, and it's still the same situation. Black now must give up the queen. He took on e2, rook takes, and bishop e3, and yeah, it's still everything's terribly uncoordinated. Rook c4, rook e1. It doesn't have a good square. Needs to take, and now b3. Look at this rook. Look at this knight. So he needed to give even more stuff. And reach this position where black basically only has got 2 bishops for the queen. The only hope is some very crazy sort of fortress, but it's almost impossible to achieve. So we have some more moves. There are possibilities for a fortress. Just for argument's sake, imagine that let's say those pieces would be off, the 4 that I just marked. The rooks are off and those 2 pawns are off. Then black positions a bishop on f4, bishop on e6, and just moves king g8, g7, and it's a draw. It's a positional draw. And in fact, this could be one of those draws where the computer thinks white is winning and he has absolutely no chances. But of course white avoids all this. Wang Hao just won this game rather easily now. It's also a matter of activity, and black's pieces are not coordinated. Yeah, this is the easiest. And now the b pawn is the decider. Note that black's bishops is also rather bad. Yeah, here after b5 even Anand resigned. Yeah, this game was really bad by Vichy. It somehow reminded me a lot of the final round game in Weigansee in January. He also had a fine tournament, Anand, and in the final round he played Wang Hao with black and lost a really bad game for his quality standards. This was even worse. I mean, bishop takes a2 is really weird. He must have miscalculated terribly. Yeah, a bad end of this tournament for Anand. I think he played quite a good tournament after this loss against Nakamura. Yeah, Vichy is just losing too many games. 2 losses is really a lot for him. Okay, and Wang Hao, he managed to, after a really terrible start, beat Carlsen in round 8 and now Anand in round 9. This is simply amazing. Okay, now let's have a look at Hammer against Nakamura. And yeah, John Ludwig Hammer, he's got the role of the punching bag in this tournament, and everyone wants to win against him. And yeah, let's see what Nakamura is trying to do. He needs a win to have a chance to catch up on first place, and also to just in general improve his standing. He certainly wants to win, and he's going for the triangle defense against d4. A very interesting setup against the Queen's Gambit. This is intending various setups. One idea is, if white plays e3, for example, you can go into the stone wall, but a stone wall where white has played e3 and not the g3 setup. This is generally considered to be quite okay for black. After other moves, you still have that option. For instance, if white covers this way, there's also f5 if you want. You don't need to, you can always go back to a semi-Slav kind of setup, but you're flexible with your f-pawn. Yeah, and another essential idea is, if white goes knight c3, which is the main move of course, black can take on c4, and this now is the notorious notable variation, where black grabs c4 and even holds on to this pawn for a while. It leads to notoriously sharp play. This is a real cool opening to play as black. I played it myself for years and had excellent results with it. I at one point stopped to play it because of some early deviations that I didn't like so much. I didn't like a move like this, but from today's perspective, it's not really clear why I didn't like it so much. I mean, black has pretty decent chances to equalize, but he needs to play knight f6 and play more solidly. I didn't like it back then. Okay, but let's go back to the game. The notable: e3, b5, a4, bishop b4. This is the way it is played. White can get the pawn back, and he does in this game as well. a5 and takes b3. So white initiates this typical counterplay on the queen side and will get his pawn back. The idea is, after bishop b7, b takes c4, black has got b4, and this is the feature and the main characteristics of the notable variation. Black gets those two outside connected passed pawns, and white gets an excellent center, and this of course leads to enormously sharp play. I mean, this is a line which only ends in a draw, normally due to perpetual checks or some weird repetitions. Otherwise, the drawing rate is basically zero. We see what's happening. White is playing in the normal way. He prepares this move e4. Here black has a choice. Back then, when I played this opening, I played e5 in this position. I remember this. One idea is, after the capture, which is questionable really, black can take on e5. This is quite a good idea. White can win a pawn here. But just have a look at this kind of position. White has lost all dynamism in the center, and there are still those two pawns. Black is a pawn down, but he has got an excellent position. a4, b3, it's very difficult to defend against this. A typical scenario in this opening is that if black has stopped the main play by white in the center on the king side, then sometimes you're even a piece down or a rook down, and those pawns are on a3, b3, and just head home at the end and promote. Yeah, this is a bad line for white. Of course, after this e5 move, which, as mentioned, I had played when I had this on the board like 15 years ago. It's quite a while back that I played that. White's response is normally f4, and after this it continues. But black has got the e-file as a source of counterplay. This is just an alternative. Nakamura played differently. He played queen c7, after which white can play f4 and block this e5 advance. And now a4. This is very important. You need to get this those pawns rolling. a4 is not hanging. If white takes it, there's the neat trick queen c6. This attacks the rook and threatens mate. So white will lose big material. It doesn't lose a rook. You can play something like this, but okay, it's just a piece. a4, taking on a4 is a huge blunder. And this already means those pawns are advancing. White needs to push in the center, but first he sets up his pieces a bit. Yeah, this is also fairly common to play rook b1, bishop a1 to freeze those pawns at least a little bit. Now they cannot move, but yeah, quite often it is happening that while being a piece down or something, those pawns are decisive at the end. Queen d6. In fact, this queen d6 move is quite a remarkable decision by Nakamura. I think he must have calculated enormously here, or he simply felt the position very well. The thing is, look at this position now for white. What move would you play? It's not a puzzle. It's just the kind of question you ask yourself, what would I play now? And the most natural move by far, of course, is the move e4. We see that in the game. Hammer is playing that. But it seems that this perfectly natural move, it's really possible that this is a mistake. The computer actually gives bishop c3 as the only really good move in this position. One point is that it protects those pieces here on the d file. The idea of queen d6, which is a somewhat clumsy looking move, the idea is quite concrete. Knight c5. If you play this bishop c3 move and black plays knight c5, there is this funny reply, and this is not what black wants to do. Of course you can do that, but white has this cool move, and he knight e4, right? I screwed up here. Yeah, my notes say knight e4. I just read it wrong. This is also makes much more sense. And now white will win material without any particular compensation. So bishop c3 prevents this knight c5 idea. He played e4 as mentioned, and now here it comes, knight c5. This was Nakamura's idea of queen d6, very concrete play. And what is white supposed to do now? The easiest is taking. After queen d3, white just falls apart. e4 falls and everything. It's a disaster. Also, those pawns decide the day. Cannot take. So what is white supposed to do here? Yeah, he played, I think, the best and normal move, e5. Okay, queen is hanging. Needs to go to c6. And now two knights are hanging. What should white play now? It's of course super complicated. I spent some time to look at this position, but it's really tricky to analyze. White had alternatives, by the way. He didn't need to play e5, but it's of course the most principled reply. You can play other stuff like rook f3, for example. I had a brief look at that, but I'm not sure that it really helps. If black manages to get rid of this strong d3 bishop, it's a huge accomplishment. Look at this, attacking e4. Yeah, you can play something like this, for example. This is designed to block this diagonal. Just for argument's sake, something like this would be terrible at the end, because those pawns are the deciders at the end. The central pawns are not so dangerous. They won't promote, but those pawns, they have some promotion potential. Yeah, okay, but e5 was played, and I think this is also the much more natural way to play. Queen c6. In fact, I think that the next move he took on f6 is almost losing. It's very hard to come back after that, if at all. I think the critical choice was to take on c5. However, this leads to enormous play for black. This is also clear. But probably it was still the move to play. Let's have a look. Take, and black's point is rook d3, of course. White cannot capture because of
Checkmate.
the mate here. But of course he can take f6, and of course he should do that. Get a piece. So how does Nakamura continue now? The most natural move is rook a to d1, attacking the knight. It needs to evacuate to f3.
Check.
Queen takes, and queen f2. And yeah, let's take stock. Black has sacrificed this piece, but he's got the pawns. It's really tricky to tell. I mean, it's clear that black has enough for the piece. I'm not so sure if he really is better. This is the only real question here. The moves to analyze now are taking on f2 and queen b4. If you take, let's start with this move. Can analyze this. And okay, they are strong, those pawns, but do they really win? If you look at something like this, rook g1, g6, and now you use your own c-pawn, it's not so clear to me if this is... Oh, this is really... Sorry, I think I can... I screwed up here. Gf, a3, rook g1, g6... Oh no, this is the line I prepared. Sorry, c5. And now there's amongst others a2.
Check.
Something like this.
Check.
Yeah, something like this. You can even continue to analyze. Probably it's a draw at the end. But it's of course far from being forced. I just want to show that there's lots of complicated things to analyze. After queen f2 there's also queen b4, which is maybe even the better move, but it's also very complicated. There are ideas for white, like simply taking, but also of f5, for example, trying to use the f-file. It's hard to tell. I think in a practical game black is in excellent shape. There's no doubt about that. I'm not so sure about the objective value. Maybe white can in fact defend, but it's very difficult. A quick alternative to mention is after e takes f6 to immediately capture on c5. It's maybe weaker, but it's interesting. And it involves a little trap. If white now tries this, black is winning with rook d2. It's a useful motif to remember. Takes.
Check. Check.
And black wins the house. White needs to play the funny move queen d5 now. And yeah, of course, black is winning very easily here. So queen f2 is not possible at all. I wanted to show this idea. Yeah, something like rook f2 probably needs to be played. And after that, rook d8 is somewhat different to b4. Here white can go knight f1, and I must go knight f1. On a move like knight f3, there's a3, and those pawns will decide. So knight f1, and now there are various ideas. You can go here, g6, or you can even grab this pawn. It's a completely messy position that I cannot assess really. In the practical game, I'd easily say that black is okay, at least. but it's rather tough to analyze. I think that in comparison, probably rook d8 is the better move here. But okay, very complicated. But white, I think, needed to do that. In the game, he took on f6, and knight takes d3, and now we have the same situation of a piece capturing on d3 that cannot be taken because of the mate. And yeah, what is white supposed to do now? I think that with rook f3, he could have continued to put up a good fight, attacking the knight. And after this knight c5 move, again,
check.
We have a similar position to before. This is just one possibility with this sort of weird compensation position for black. Black can also go b2 and maybe or knight b4. Knight b4 maybe. I didn't analyze this move, but it doesn't look too bad. Yeah, the point is, I think he needed to go rook f3 simply because the other moves are just not playable. He played queen to g4, and after g6, rook f3, black can play b2 and is enjoying a really substantial edge. This was played, and here the big point is, if white takes on d3, he didn't do that. If white takes, black has got b takes a1, rook takes, and now the point rook takes d4. This is very very nice. White takes and queen c5. This is just very strong. Using this pin, white cannot move the knight anyway. Like here, just grab and win. Both rooks even in this case. So f5 is needed. And then you just go rook d8 and grab d4 with the winning position. Quite a nice line. So he played queen g5, trying to hang on. Takes. And queen b6. This is strong. b4 is hanging. Queen b2 is an idea. And yeah, black is at the moment the piece up. So white needs to get the knight back here. Rook d4, and now this is just a terrible threat. This whatever, all kinds of discover checks. So he played rook b1, and after the return, black wins a whole bunch of material. Yeah, the last bullet, rook takes f7, but black can just basically ignore that.
Check.
Check. Check again.
Check.
And take this. This is the easiest way to go. And here Hammer resigned. After king takes, you can, yeah, if you want, just insert a check and then promote. There is no counter attack really that white can go for. If you go something like this,
check. 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 Checkmate.
You mate it in this way. Yeah, very nice game by Nakamura. I think queen d6 was an excellent move, really. I wonder, I wonder how much time he spent on that. Yeah, more than 20 minutes, 22 minutes. Yeah, an excellent decision, setting up this counterplay, and he really must have, I think, calculated this very nicely with the piece sacrifice. So a well-deserved win for Nakamura, and this means he has a good result anyway. Whatever Karjakin is doing in this game, he's got at the end a +2 score, if I'm not mistaken. I'll put up the final standings after I showed the last game. So a good tournament for Hikaru. So only the leaders game, Karjakin Topalov, is oops, didn't want to do that, sorry. This was my analysis board. Where is it? Karjakin Topalov. Here we go. And okay, Karjakin leading the tournament. I think a draw would suit him fine, but he's an e4 player and is not the type to play some sidelines. So we have a knight off with bishop g5. And in fact, Topalov plays a sharp line that you cannot easily force a draw against. In fact, after some lines, let's say in the poison pawn here, white can in some lines basically draw at will and just force a draw with very concrete play. And Topalov is not allowing that. He's playing the quick queen c7, and this is one of those ambitious fighting lines where black tries to quickly attack on the queen side. The drawback is that after this capture you have a damaged pawn structure. This is very similar to the rouser with bishop g5, knight c6. The difference is that here there's no knight on c6, and this can often help black. Let's have a look at the game. Yeah, now the knight here, the knight can set up post on b6, where it has ideas to go on c4, and it controls the crucial square on d5. We see that Karjakin now plays the move king b1, and after knight b6 he goes f5. This is a very typical way to play this structure. He wants to pressurize e6 and force this pawn to move, which happened. But there is a difference to lots of other positions of this type. Black has got quite good control over d5. The knight is just a good piece on b6 controlling the square, and white has a hard time to reposition his pieces that he can actually use the square. It feels just a couple of moves in this knight d5 is questionable maybe, but yeah, I'm not sure what white should play. To be honest, I mean, I play 1e4 in my blitz games once in a while to have some variety in them, but I have no idea how to play the open Sicilian as white. I mean, not on a decent level, and frankly speaking, I'm a bit unsure what white should do now. What I'm pretty sure of, that knight d5 is not so great, but I'm not sure what white should do. I don't know, maybe you can somehow reposition this knight. I don't like the knight much on b3. It's just looking at squares that are controlled, but it's hard to tell. I'm not a great expert on the open Sicilian, the structures and everything. What I don't like about knight d5 is, okay, black took it with the bishop and now played bishop to h6, queen moves, knight c4. What I don't like about this position is that white doesn't have any positive active plan now available. It's very difficult now to make any sort of progress. You cannot really play on the king side. Take this into consideration, the next couple of moves. Let's look at this. You cannot play on the king side. This is a very sound defensive wall, and this is a good piece even on g5. It controls important diagonal. And on the queen side, well, you cannot open the queen side. Your king is over there. So frankly speaking, I don't see a plan for white. You can basically just shuffle around. And this is in fact what happened. They shuffled around a lot. White repositioned his knight to better control b4, so he's ready for this advance. And both sides trying to improve pieces a bit. Of course, you can analyze this in much more detail if you like, but I'd like to focus on one or two critical moments. Here, exactly here. I think that the next move by Topalov is not the best one. At least this is what the computer assisted analysis brought up. He played king d7 and later knight to c4. It seems that knight a4 here is a good idea. The idea is to put pressure on both those pawns and maybe in some cases being able to sacrifice on b2. I think white probably should cover the pawn on c3. If you play some other moves, let's say this one, black can consider to take, and it's probably a good line. Here black has the funny move bishop c1, threatening mate. Rook takes, rook g4, and now if white takes, queen d3 wins for black. There's everything hanging now, c2 everything. So white needs to do something else, probably here, and now maybe this maneuver. I think black is in excellent shape here, probably winning. So white shouldn't allow that. He probably should on knight a4 play rook d3. And here I just want to show a sample line. Black is simply increasing the pressure slowly, like this, for example. Queen d1, queen b6, and this is the intention, to even play rook c4. Let's say queen e1, rook c4, bishop f3, queen c5, just increasing the pressure more and more. And this can get ugly rather quickly. Let's say, just for argument's sake, it's not forced. And now this idea. I think white is in some trouble after knight a4. It's especially difficult to play because black is not like storming your king. He's just creeping towards your king slowly, shuffling pieces towards your king and attacking slowly. This is sometimes more dangerous than those very direct attacks where you see, okay, he's going there, how do I defend against that? You only have one move, you play it, you defend. But here it's sort of a slow crawl towards your king. It's possible that white is in real trouble there. After king d7, Karjakin managed to do this, bishop d3, and after knight c4 he could take and initiate this counterplay due to the pin, so black couldn't take. This is hanging. And now c4 is hanging. This means that this pawn got lost. But it's not the end of the world for black, of course. Black has got excellent pressure here. And they shuffled a bit. I mean, white has no chance whatsoever to do anything. He's just tied to the defense here. But Topalov is playing around a bit here and tries to do something. This is just shuffling. But a couple of moves later he was trying to do something with this, in fact. And yeah, Karjakin played the best move, queen c2, attacking a4. And now it gets briefly interesting again. If black takes, you just take a4. And this is some progress for white. It's not clear if black is in this situation still where he can just press without any risk.
Check.
Just look at this. If black now, let's say, plays d5 to attack, you have a4 and tricks like that. This can easily fall apart for black. He played some other move, namely this, knight d2 back. Now he played rook a5. Yeah, here if black takes here, there's rook a4. And it's not so clear that this is still enough for black. Your pawn down. He played this one, however, and here we have a clear case of specific tournament situation. In this position, Karjakin could have played the move c4, which very likely is excellent for white. He should be in very good shape and has definite winning chances. But he spotted that after knight c4, rook back, knight back, there's a repetition. And okay, they repeated moves and now agreed to a draw. I think Karjakin just saw, okay, I can draw now. And he was, I think, very well aware that he was in slight trouble before. He lost in round 8. And the draw secures the win at this point. The other games were finished. Anand lost and Carlsen didn't win and so on. He was sure with a draw, I'm the sole winner of this thing. So he took the draw. A very, very decent practical decision. It's just for a couple of rating points. You don't need to risk too much. Just win the tournament. He hasn't won a tournament for years, like 2 years or so. I think he won Wijk not too long ago. Nakamura, I think, won in 2011. Aronian in 12. I'm not quite sure, but Karjakin, I don't think he won one of the big classical time control tournaments recently, and I think he's glad to have this really fine result. I'd like to pull up the final standings briefly. This is the final standings. We can see that Karjakin is the winner. He lost 2 games against Carlsen and against Svidler, but still won the tournament with half a point ahead. So he won 5 games at the end, scoring a +3 score. Very nice. And yeah, they don't have an ELO result like rating gain, but he certainly gained a number of points here, certainly like 15 points or so. Then we have Carlsen and Nakamura, both on 5.5 points, 5.5 point. Nakamura lost 2 games against Karjakin and Aronian, but also won 4 games, +2, very good result. And Carlsen, yeah, he's basically playing according to his, I think, rating expectation. But he's certainly disappointed about this loss against Wang Hao. Even a draw would have secured first place in this tournament. I think he would have had the better tiebreak. Yeah, then we have Svidler, Aronian, Anand all on +1. In case of Svidler and Aronian, yeah, they won't be thrilled, but also won't be disgusted with the result, I think. Yeah, Vichy certainly must be disappointed with the final game against Wang Hao. He played a decent enough tournament, beating Topalov in a nice game, beating Rajabov. So he did, and the game against Hammer I also liked. It was a good fight. Yeah, Wang Hao had great games and really bad games. He's very inconsistent. But yeah, he beat the world champion and he beat Carlsen, so very nice end of the tournament. Just imagine he wouldn't have those 2 wins in the last 2 rounds, then he would have had a rotten tournament. Yeah, Topalov without a win, the only player in the tournament without a win. Always a bit frustrating. He lost this 1 game against Vichy and drew the rest. Bit of an unspectacular tournament. He was in pretty good shape lately, but somehow didn't show here. Yeah, Rajabov is in very bad shape. No idea why he only won the 1 game against Hammer and got really beaten up by the other guys. Yeah, and John Ludwig Hammer, he won 1 game. I think he's very glad about that. And drew against Topalov and lost the rest. It's, I guess, I can only imagine. I'm not in a situation. I've never been in a similar situation. I can only imagine how it must be that basically every player in the field is like 150 points above you. It's the comparison would be like me playing against a couple of guys that are, don't know, 2.560, 2.550, something like that. You have a hard time in every game, and if it's not working out and you're not in excellent shape for whatever reason, then you really get so many losses. So he won't be thrilled, but it can happen if you play only the best players in the world. Okay, this is the end of the tournament coverage. I hope you enjoyed it. I think it was a very entertaining tournament. We had lots of decisive results. It's really a rarity that someone wins a tournament who has lost 2 games, so we see that they fought a lot. Yeah, thanks for watching this video and also the videos before if you had a look at these. Thanks, and yeah, I'm not quite sure. The next big tournament I think will be the Town Memorial in June, and I think I'll cover that as well. Yeah, bye.